I'm Richard Donovan, Randolph Fire Chief. I'm here today to talk to you about the Randolph High School Pathways program. We've actually brought in instructors from Massasoit Community College in a partnership with the Randolph Fire Department and personnel from Randolph High School to build a program which teaches students in their senior year of high school public safety knowledge in the way of medical response and basically opening them up to areas that we get into in the fire service. Coordinator for Massasoit was a gentleman, Scott Meager, who's in charge of all their EMS training for Massasoit. And we also had a instructor from Massasoit, Nastasia Ye, who took the brunt of the teaching on the EMS side. The fire side, I had Lieutenant Messia, Joseph Messia from Fire Prevention Office, as well as Lieutenant Tim Sproles, who were my coordinators from the fire side and taught the fire side of things. The students were picked through the headmaster's office at the Randolph High School. The word was put out by him to people he thought might be interested in such a program. They were moving on into the military field or the medical field, something in that area. All were very interested in actually taking part in the program. They'll actually be trained to what's called the first responder level so that they can take care of medical issues if they're first on scene. Part of my goal was to open up the fire part of things to the community in the high school, to just show what it's all about. Maybe give them an avenue to take as far as a career down the road. So we wanted to show them the EMS side, the fire side. That's what happens in firefighting. In the town of Randolph, you have to be both a firefighter and an EMT.
Hi, my name is Joe Messia. I'm the Randolph Fire Department Fire Prevention Lieutenant, and I'm the coordinator for the Randolph High School Pathways program. So the students involved in the Randolph High School Pathways program were in attendance for 10 classes with the Randolph Fire Department and approximately 40 classes with Massasoit Community College. Their lead instructor was Nastasia Ye, and they did a lot of first aid. They did CPR, where they performed CPR on the mannequins. CPR is an important tool that all firefighters know. We're trained at CPR at the EMT level, at the paramedic level, and it stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Basically, if somebody's heart stops, we can breathe for them and get their heart pumping again. As EMTs and paramedics, we're all trained in CPR and defibrillator. And CPR is important because if somebody's heart stops, we can respond to the call and breathe for the patient and get their heart beating again, trying to save their lives. The Massasoit instructor, Nastasia, she brought in a survivor of a heart attack to speak to the students about warning signs in regards to a heart attack. Some of the warning signs of a heart attack could include chest pain, tingling in your arms, jaw tightness, neck pain. So it's important to call 911 when you experience any of these symptoms so you can get prompt medical treatment. The Randolph Fire Department brought over our spare fire engine, engine number 1, during engine company operations. We did a short lecture with the students inside the classroom and then brought them out to the engine to review our tools, to review the pump. We had them spray water from one of our tack lines and answered any questions that they had. Students were given PPE, which stands for personal protective equipment. They were given firefighting pants, a jacket, and a helmet to borrow during this class so they could both be safe during our activities and know what it's like to wear the gear that we wear. On engine number 1, we have multiple compartments. In some of the compartments, we store things such as nozzles, hose fittings, spare hose. We store hand tools such as axes and haligans. We have a Sawzall. We have a fan, which we can use to get rid of smoke from a building. We have the Jaws of Life in the back of the back compartment. One of the tools our students really enjoyed was the Porta Power, which is a manual hydraulic tool that we use usually to spread doors to gain access into an area. All these tools are used for life-saving techniques. We need to carry a multitude of them because we never know what we're going to encounter. We assisted one of the students with removing our 1 3/4 hose from the side of the truck. We spread it out to get all the kinks out of the hose, and then we allowed each student to use the hose. Our 1 3/4 inch hose comes off the side of the truck. It's one of our main attack lines, and it flows 150 gallons a minute. We also showed the students how we flow off the master stream, which is at the top of the truck. And you can see that it's going up over the school onto the field. This can flow approximately 1,500 gallons a minute with the proper water supply. Did you know that our engines can pump 1,500 gallons a minute and hold 700 gallons of water and carry approximately 3,000 feet of hose in each engine? The students involved in this program had already taken from the Massasoit side trauma and motor vehicle crashes. So we had C&L Towing donate 2 cars and allowed us to do a mock extrication and cut the cars up to show the students what it's like to remove the victims from the vehicles. We did a short lecture at the beginning of it, and we went over some of the safety issues. There's broken glass, there's sharp metal. Everybody wore their personal protective equipment at all times, which again included pants, jacket, gloves, eye protection, which is very important. We showed them what you do before you get to the victim. We didn't really stick with the game plan as if we were dealing with a real-life emergency. We just tried to let the students get a feel for making a few cuts with hydraulic tools like our Jaws of Life and get a feel for the amount of effort it takes to perform this task. When we arrive to a motor vehicle crash and we know that we're going to need to use the Jaws to extricate the patient, to remove the patient, we got to do a few things. The first thing we like to do is we deflate the tires, which will stabilize the vehicle and not give it as much bounce. Second thing, we're going to go in and we're going to protect the patient. We're going to use both hard and soft protection to make sure they don't get it damaged with, don't get hurt with any glass. Then we're going to break the windows so we can access the metal in order to start cutting the car. The students used a Halligan tool with the horn end to puncture the tires, and they used that also to break the windows. And we also had a window punch, which is a spring-loaded device that will break the window when used properly. The students definitely enjoyed breaking the windows, that's for sure. Remember, the car windows are made out of safety glass, which breaks into small granular chunks rather than jagged shards and splinters. We have a tool called the hydraulic spreader and hydraulic cutter. Most people know them as the Jaws of Life. And we use those to both cut the steel frames of the car and to spread, and we use them in conjunction to remove doors, roofs, and whatever else is necessary to get at the patient. Vehicle extrication was important for the students to learn because it's a large part of our job, and it's good exposure for them to know exactly what we do on a daily basis. An important lesson that the students were taught is that if they see a vehicle on the side of the road that there appears to be injuries, they should call 911 and never take for granted that somebody else has called 911. During our ladder company operations class, the students learned the different types of ladder trucks, what the responsibility of the ladder company is, and the major differences in tools between the engine and a ladder. We brought over our ladder tower, a ladder tower 1. It's a rear mount, so the turntable is on the rear of the vehicle, and it has a bucket that you can operate the 100-foot ladder. The students were allowed to go into the bucket as it was being operated by one of our firefighters, and for safety reasons, they were tethered into the bucket with a ladder belt. The ladder operator operated the bucket and swiveled it 180 degrees and rested it on top of the school roof. It was approximately 45 feet in the air and allowed the students to step down from the bucket onto the roof. The students really enjoyed the ladder company operations portion of the class. They were up approximately 60 feet at one point and couldn't believe how high it was. They were pretty excited. They were talking about it since week 2. One question we get quite often is, why in the world do you need a ladder truck with a 100-foot ladder on it? With some minor prompting, the students figured it out immediately. Even though the tall buildings are in the cities, unlike a city, a town is filled with properties, usually with lawns, fences, driveways, and other similar areas. So not only do we have to go to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th story, we also have to reach over the 20, 25, 30 feet of front lawns and sidewalks. Ladder company operations is a big part of the fire service, so it's very important for the students to learn about this and become familiar with it if they would like to choose a career path in firefighting. We showed the students how to properly dress, open, and flow a fire hydrant, and we went through the proper steps to use a fire hydrant. During our lecture, we showed the students the 2 different types of hydrants. There's wet barrel and dry barrel. The wet barrel is in warmer locations and the dry barrel is in colder locations. So the water won't freeze inside the hydrant, or usually won't freeze inside the hydrant. The steps we use to open a fire hydrant, we start by making sure that the hydrant is actually closed. Take off all the caps, the front cap and the two side caps, and we dress the hydrant. We put two valves on the side and a hydrant assist valve on the front. Then we open up the hydrant and we open one of the side valves to flush it, get the sediment, any rocks, sand, debris, anything like that, because we don't want that stuff in our fire engine pump. We had the students assist with removing the caps from the fire hydrant and placing the gate valves onto the fire hydrant. To start off our fire extinguisher class, we had a short lecture. It took about 15 minutes. We went over some of the basics of fire extinguishing, and then we brought the students outside to extinguish a live fire. During the fire extinguisher hands-on portion, we brought in Captain Frew to assist us. He lit inside a steel container a small combustible liquid fire for the students to extinguish. The students learned to evaluate the fire, choose the proper extinguisher, use the acronym PASS, which stands for pull, as in pull the pin, aim, squeeze, and sweep. They extinguished the fire and stayed alert for the reignition. The students realized that even after you extinguish a fire, don't ever turn your back on it because it could very easily reignite, and now you only have maybe half the contents of your extinguisher. All safety precautions were taken during this live evolution. We had trained professionals on scene. Don't light fires in the school parking lot. We had the students dressed in full PPE, and they were able to choose the extinguisher they wanted to use and use the extinguisher to extinguish the fire. They didn't expect the extinguishers to be as loud as they were and to come out as powerful as they did, but this type of lesson they'll be able to take with them, and if they ever need to in the future use a fire extinguisher, they'll have this in the back of their mind. We taught the students about the different classifications of fire extinguishers. We have A, B, C, D, and K. A is for ordinary combustibles, B is for liquids, C is for electrical, D is for metal, and K is for kitchen. During our live fire demonstration and extinguishment, we had a Class B fire, and we used a Class B extinguisher and also a Class C extinguisher. We also showed them the hazards of using a Class A extinguisher on this type of fire. It's very important to choose the right fire extinguisher for the fuel that's burning. We urge them to remember a fire extinguisher is primarily used to prevent a small fire from growing. Always call 911 when there's a fire, regardless of its size. Make sure you have an exit and follow your gut. If you don't think you should be in the situation, then get out. For our search and rescue class, we brought the students down to the poolside locker room, and we went over some quick techniques on how to conduct a search and rescue. The first technique conducted was a right-handed or left-handed search, and the second technique was a rope-guided search that, in conjunction with a thermal imaging camera. For the search and rescue class, we brought down our Rescue Randy, which is a 170-pound dummy. We brought our fog machine from the fire department. We brought some tools, a thermal imaging camera, and on the screen it'll show you the discrepancies of heat. So if you have some object that's hotter than another object, the hotter object will be a brighter white color on the screen. We started with the students inside one of the clear side locker rooms. It was well lit, there was no fog, they had no idea what they were about to encounter. And we had them put on their full firefighting gear and their tank and their helmet and their mask. And then we gave them a scenario, said there was a victim down and they had to go find the victim with the techniques that we taught them. So when they exited the clear room, they came out into a dark, fog-filled room. The students got down on their hands and knees to stay low from the heat and smoke that we were simulating, and they used the thermal imaging camera to navigate through the fog and try to find the dummy. It was important for the students to learn this aspect of our job because this is one of the most important aspects. It's about life safety, search and rescue, and it's one of the most difficult ones that we can provide. Not only in training, but during a real house fire, we should get low and stay low to the ground on our hands and knees to stay below the smoke where the fresh air is, and the heat rises, so we like to stay low away from the heat. The final fire class of the Randolph High School Pathways program was a 7-station obstacle course that Lieutenant Sproles and I put together for the students to go through. The obstacle course started with the students in their civilian clothes and a radio. They got a call on the radio stating that there was a house fire. They then got dressed in their firefighting gear, put their tank on, and went to the next station. The second station consisted of a picture of a house fire or a building fire, and they had to radio back their initial report and what they saw in the picture. The third station consisted of 3 hand tools that we use in the fire service. I told them which tool to pick up by name, and they had to pick the proper tool. Then they went on to the dummy drag. They dragged the 170-pound dummy just a few feet to the cones, and they could clear that station onto the next station. They picked up a 16-foot roof ladder and balanced it, laid it down on a couple of chairs. And then the final step was they went and grabbed the fire hose. They pulled it maybe 15 feet or so and sprayed a cone, shut the nozzle off, and ran back to the truck, completing the obstacle course. We put this obstacle course together to simulate some of the things we do at a real fire. There's many different tasks that we perform, and we wanted the students to get a taste of that. The main reason it was important for the students to take the Randolph High School Pathways program was to show them a career path in public safety. I enjoyed working with the students because of their enthusiasm and their willingness to learn. I feel that the students really enjoyed taking the class. They learned a lot about fire safety and what it is to be a firefighter. The Randolph Fire Department would like to thank the students involved in the Randolph High School Pathways program. We hope the students gained insight to a possible career in public safety.
In order for students to get involved in the program, the headmaster at the Randolph High School will be putting out the information probably the beginning of the next school year, and then they'll take applicants from there and they'll decide. Hopefully there's enough positions, enough space in each class for the number of students that apply. So it would be through the headmaster, and he'll actually have the final say about who gets to take part in it. If you'd like to reach us and learn more about the Randolph High School Pathways program, you can dial us at 781-961-0991 or on our website at randolphfire.com.